A city once silenced by disaster now speaks through 1,344 meters of steel. Sanriku's Ria coastline funnels tsunami energy directly into harbors like Kesennuma. Where fire once burned on the water, 8,800 tons of steel promise it will hold. Tohoku's longest cable-stayed bridge draws visitors to a coast once known only for loss. How do you build across a bay that the ocean already swallowed once? Engineers chose a method called damage control design, built to predict destruction. A magnitude 9.0 earthquake generated tsunami waves exceeding 40 meters along this coast. Ruptured oil tanks turned Kesennuma Bay into a burning sea for days. Crossing open water was not the hard part. Lifting the towers was. Steel pipe piles, each 1,500 millimeters wide, penetrate the seabed to anchor foundations. Cofferdam walls rise from the bay floor, sealing out the Pacific itself. Pumps evacuate thousands of liters per minute, exposing bare seabed below the bay. Reinforcing steel cages form the skeleton that pier cap concrete will encase. Concrete flows continuously, filling the cofferdam that becomes the pier foundation. Removing the cofferdam reveals the first foundation standing alone in open water. Both tower foundations required identical cofferdam operations, separated by 360 meters of sea. Pier columns climb from the foundations, rising above the high tide mark. Function-separated seismic isolation bearings will crown each pier, absorbing earthquake energy. Each bearing absorbs seismic shock, allowing the deck to move without breaking apart. Factory welders fabricate steel box girders in sections, each inspected ultrasonically. Multi-axle transporters deliver prefabricated sections to barges at the public wharf.
A 750-ton crawler crane places landside girders at the Kogoshio approach.
Section by section, the approach bridge advances across 664 meters of reclaimed land. Two separate contractor teams build toward each other from opposite shorelines. Tower base blocks take shape in the fabrication hall, welded from SM570 grade steel. Lying horizontal, the lower tower block stretches 65 meters and weighs 890 tons. A 3,000-ton floating crane enters the bay to lift the tower vertically. Certified riggers attach lifting slings to calculated balance points on the block. 890 tons of steel rotate from horizontal to vertical over open Pacific water. Millimeter alignment guides 890 tons onto anchor bolts embedded in the pier cap.
The gauge is climbing steadily.
Reading 420, it's holding.
Good. Next one.
Atop the lower block, 280 more tons of steel complete the 100-meter tower. FEM analysis predicted deformation tolerances that spacing adjusters correct to millimeters. One tower stands, a second must follow before a single cable is strung. Every lift challenges tidal windows, wind limits, and vessel positioning tolerances. Two towers, 360 meters apart, await the cables that will carry everything. A 95-ton climbing crane now sits at the tower summit, ready for cable work. Diagonal bent supports,
each 85 tons, brace the first girder sections near towers.
Keep it steady. Down a little. Left. 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 That's good. Line up the holes. Set it.
Counterweights shift each block's balance, creating crane clearance beside the tower.
Erection girders with twin jacks will lift each new block from the sea below.
From barge to bridge level, each block rises on 4 pre-stressing strand cables. Each new girder block receives its stay cable within hours of being spliced. Single-plane cable suspension. All cables run along the deck center line, not the edges.
After every block, the erection girder slides forward to repeat the cycle.
Barges must position within centimeters directly beneath the jacking frame overhead.
Symmetrical block placement balances every new load across the tower foundation.
Stay cables thread through tower saddles at 100 meters before reaching the deck.
Spelter sockets lock each cable at forces approaching 800 tons during construction.
7 cables now radiate from each tower, each carrying hundreds of tons.
Side spans must reach shore piers precisely, aligning with the land approach bridges.
Cable tensions now exceed 800 tons, the maximum force this system will ever carry.
Side span closure connects the cable-stayed deck to the Asahi approach bridge. Both side spans now touch land, but the center gap remains wide open. Tidal windows limit barge operations to 2 slack water periods each day. Night lifts occur during navigation closures. The bay never stops being a harbor. Fishing vessels pass 32 meters below, while crews bolt steel overhead. Twin jacks cycle in alternation, ratcheting each block upward 1 meter per stroke. Inside the box girder, friction bolts lock web and flange splice connections.
9 cables per side, each carrying the deck's weight toward the tower summit.
CIM models predict deflection within millimeters, but the bay obeys no model perfectly. Wind, temperature, and tide shift both cantilever tips independently. Millimeters matter.
Engineers retention the highest cables, using them to steer each cantilever tip.
Under floodlights, the closure block rises into a gap measured in centimeters. Final bolts lock the 360-meter main span into a single continuous structure.
All 40 cables receive new tension values, transitioning from construction to service. Survey teams confirm the deck profile matches the designed alignment within millimeters. Dimpled cable sheaths break wind patterns that would otherwise vibrate cables apart. Temporary erection equipment descends to barges, revealing clean deck surfaces beneath. Marine-grade fluorine resin coatings seal every splice against Pacific salt corrosion.
Removing temporary supports reveals the tower's permanent profile for the first time.
Waterproof membrane seals the 16-millimeter orthotropic deck plate from moisture infiltration. Beneath asphalt pavement lies a 16-millimeter steel deck plate spanning the bay. Steel crash barriers line both edges, designed to redirect vehicles safely at speed. Median barriers shield every cable anchor from vehicle collision along the center line.
Deck scuppers and internal drain lines prevent water from reaching structural connections.
Road lighting columns rise at precise intervals, turning open steel into highway. Expansion joints absorb thermal and seismic movement at every deck transition point. Seismic accelerometers placed on towers and piers will detect the next earthquake instantly. Aviation lights crown each tower at 115 meters above sea level, visible to aircraft. Inspection gondola rails run beneath the entire deck, built for decades of maintenance. Dehumidification systems keep air dry inside each cable anchor against corrosion. 40 LED fixtures on each tower will transform the bridge into a nighttime beacon. White light floods both towers at dusk, and Kesennuma gains a new landmark. Wind sensors and emergency phones line the deck, guarding a Pacific-facing crossing. Lane markings define the road surface, transforming raw asphalt into national expressway. Route signs mark Sendai to the south and Hachinohe to the north, 359 kilometers apart. Loaded trucks line the deck for static testing, verifying deflection against design predictions. Vehicles cross at speed, recording vibration signatures against the bridge's natural frequency. Measured deflections match design predictions within tolerance. The structure is verified. Each cable's vibration frequency conforms its tension matches the designed force precisely.
Senior engineers walk the full 1,344 meters, inspecting every connection and surface.
Floating cranes that built the bridge depart, returning the bay to its fishermen. Approach barriers lift, connecting Kesennuma IC to Karakua Peninsula IC through the bridge.
Construction yards vanish, restoring the shoreline around the bridge they built.
Opening this bridge completes 126 kilometers of Miyagi's reconstruction road. A decade after the tsunami, Kesennuma prepares to cut the ribbon.
9 years from first survey to this moment, one final step remains.
Workers wash every surface, erasing the last trace of construction from the deck.
On March 1st, 2021, 80 LED lights reveal the bridge to Kesennuma for the first time. Damage control design predicts where the bridge will yield, making repair fast. 32 meters of clearance keeps the deck above projected tsunami wave heights. Kesennuma's fishing fleet passes below, the harbor unchanged by the bridge above. Tohoku's longest cable-stayed bridge draws visitors to a coast once known only for loss. Kanae Ohashi, the bridge that makes wishes come true, named by Kesennuma's residents. Pacific Dawn silhouettes two towers built to outlast the next century of storms. March 6, 2021, the first public vehicles cross Kesennuma Bay on steel and cable. Golden light catches every cable. The bridge becomes more than steel and tension. A city once silenced by disaster now speaks through 1,344 meters of steel. At dusk, 80 lights ignite, and the bay remembers what it means to rebuild. Under clear sky, 8,800 tons of steel achieve what concrete alone could not. 6 years and 7 months compressed into the bridge Kesennuma, waited a decade for. From raw seabed to this, 8,800 tons of steel now carry a city's future. Every cable anchor receives final torque verification before opening day. Where fire once burned on the water, 8,800 tons of steel promise it will hold.
Designed not just to cross the bay, but to survive the next wave.
Kanee means to make wishes come true, and Kesennuma wished to never be cut off again.
Ever wondered how the modern world was built? It was shaped by engineering. Subscribe to Industrial Evolution.